Live from our studio here at Kojo Accra, this is Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. Coming up this hour, Guta backs increases in prices of goods by members hours after suspending their strike action.
In our grievances, the policy rate was one issue that we raised. So once the cedi continues to fall, definitely you also have to adjust your prices to be able to stay in business.
Details as former President John Mahama says the current state of the economy is terrible and worse in the country's history.
The current state of our economy is terrible. We've never, in all our history, been in a place like this.
Also in this bulletin, President Akufo-Addo is upbeat about the country's chances of bouncing back from the current challenges.
I'm confident. Say, baby, we will find a solution to it, and in that solution, so big me the fundamentals of the Ghanaian economy.
Now, trading activities at the Accra Central and Abossey-Okai returned fully today after leadership of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, asked its members to reopen their stores. This decision was arrived at after an intervention by President Akufo-Addo and the government chair. Members of GUTA on Wednesday closed their shops in the Accra Central Business District over the worsening economic conditions in the country. Checks by Joy News at some market centers in the capital revealed that some members had increased the prices of their product. I visited the Abossey-Okai spare part market and the Rolling Circle here in Accra. We are here at the Rolling Circle, Accra Central. As you can see, I've seen almost all the shops have reopened. Let's try and engage some of them.
Yeah, to move for 3 days because of $90. Okay. Because the scan is equal to more jumano. I'm at the beer, you're too near me.
Danu na more to no saying, and mobile be offered the back one fancy beer. Brazil yama fay more to no nanka saying and be saying. Oh,
Brazil, ye say, and nay, the 5 cities are sound to Toso because of $90.
Well, so you heard there that she closed her store for 3 days. She has opened because GUTA executives have asked them to. She's saying that the economic situation is dire. The worth of their money has reduced drastically, and that government should do something about it. I wanted to find out the sort of changes that have come in terms of the price of their goods. And I picked this brazier, and as an example, she says, before they closed and now that they've reopened, the price has increased by 5 Ghana cedis, and that if the dollar goes up, they will still increase their price. I'm here in Abossey-Okai to look at how the situation is. And I tell you what, as you can see right behind me, now from where I'm standing, if I'm not trying to exaggerate, I can see about 500 meters away from here. And it is filled with people, with shops opened, and brisk trading activities are underway here in Abossey-Okai. It tells you that the members of GUTA have really listened to the leadership and have resumed the activities. People tell me that they want government to act and act fast.
Well, really the government has betrayed us several times. We've tried to solve this matter amicably, but it seems as if he will assure us, but later he cannot fulfill his promise. Yes, so that is the reason why we decided even to close the shops up till now. Well, GUTA, they've now informed us that they've almost completed, they've finished solving the problem, so we should come and open our shops. Yeah.
What about the pricing of the goods? Has it changed since you opened this morning?
No, the price is the same because the government has assured us that he will try his best to solve the problem, and that the depreciation of the cedi will never happen again. So really we are optimistic that what the government has said now, he will listen to our pleadings.
Okay, actually, our leaders yesterday on news, I heard that they've sat down with the president and they've discussed one or two things with the president, giving them, news of encouragement. So we should reopen. That's why today we've opened.
Now, in an exclusive interview with Joy News, the first vice chairman of GUTA, Charles Boateng, justified the increment of price of goods of some of their members.
If we look at the trend of the cedi depreciation, I think nobody or you don't need someone to tell you that you also have to take a look at your prices, because as I'm talking to you now, the dollar has hit the 15 cedis mark, as the 15 cedis to a dollar, which means at every point in time there is an additional cost in terms of the cedi depreciation. So you cannot, continue to be selling your goods as it used to be. Definitely, you also have to adjust your prices to at least make up for the loss that you incur. And businessman is a Father Christmas. Even though we've been thinking of the plight of the customer or the consumer, because to what extent you can continue to be increasing prices, but you also, cannot sit down for you alone to bear the cost, because you have a facility that you have to service at the prevailing interest rates, and that is the more reason why in our grievances the policy rate was one issue that we raised. So once the cedi continues to fall, definitely you also have to adjust your prices.
Well, so how has the cedi depreciated this week alone? Isaac Ofieje is a data analyst with our research desk here at Joy News, and he joins me on Zoom with some information. Kofi, what does the data say?
Right, Grace. So exactly a week ago, when the week ended last week, $1 was trading for about 12 cedis and some pesos. And then on Sunday, we began the week where the dollar now crept to the 13 cedi, crossed the 13 cedi mark. And then, if you look at this week, the dollar has crossed certain discrete marks. So it crossed the 12 cedi mark, the 13 cedi mark, and then it's now trading around some 14 cedis, 70 pesos. So if you look at the rate of depreciation in nominal terms, it's around 145%, and in real terms, it's around 58%. And so that's, the value that the cedi has lost against the dollar, around 58%. So we began the year with, the dollar trading for $1 to 6 cedis, and now we are trading as on average $1 to 14 cedis, 70 pesos. But we also know that the Bank of Ghana, they were expecting some liquidity to help salvage the situation. The first one is the Afro-Exim Bank loan, which is 750 million. It's currently available and in full force. We also have the joint mandated arrangers and book rounders. That's the MLabs 250. We all know that the minority, they have blocked this loan because of the conditions attached to the loan. There's also the Cocoa syndicated loan of $1.13 billion that the government's also they made some announcement that they have this money, but we do not know if the disbursement has started. We are also expecting some $3 billion from the IMF, and then also we've been able to repatriate foreign forex from gold and oil companies around $83.9 million. Yes.
Okay, so that's Kofi Ajay with our research desk. Let's stay with the economy, because former President John Dramani Mahama says the current state of the economy is terrible and worse in the country's history. The city is currently hovering around a staggering 14 cedis to a dollar, with inflation standing at the highest rate in more than a decade. Speaking during a courtesy call on him by the executives of the Ghana Journalists Association, the former president criticized how President Akufo-Addo's government is managing the economy. Kweku Asante has the rest of the story.
It was a visit to introduce the newly elected executives of the Ghana Journalists Association to the former president. But John Mahama used the opportunity to discuss key issues of national concern. According to him, the economy is in complete shambles.
The current state of our economy is terrible. We've never, in all our history, been in a place like this. And I think that it's the role of GJM, all journalists, to be even more vigilant at this time when the country is faced with sad, dire economic challenges. We raised this red flag that the direction in which the economy was going. I talked personally about creative accounting. This finance minister was hiding huge liabilities and giving a rosy picture of the economy.
Mr. Mahama called for a national stakeholders meeting to discuss ideas to bring back the economy to life.
We all need to come on board and see how we can salvage it. But the first step is the government should come clean and tell us what is the state of the economy. You must put everything on the table. And that's why I called for a national dialogue. I said, bring the brains together. I've been president before. It served me well. I called Century Forum. It didn't reduce my stature as president. All participants came, except MPP. They boycotted that Century Forum. But it got us a very good homegrown document, which eventually is what we took to the IMF. So by the time we went knocking on the doors of the IMF, we had our program ready. These people have gone to the IMF, not ready, no program, nothing. It's only now they've been able to put some program together in a non-transparent way. I haven't seen what is even in the program. I thought that they will hold consultations with the media, everybody, so that we all know what austerity we're going to go through, what sacrifices are we going to make, you know.
Former President John Mahama has been speaking about the economy. He's been accusing President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo of mismanaging the economy and running it aground. He is still on his call for a national dialogue to discuss ways of bringing back the economy to life. According to the former president, discussing the economy and the situations, the challenges at Senchi during his period as president helped them formulate ideas to deal with the challenges of the economy. He says he does not understand why the president, Akufo-Addo, is not adopting such a style. He's concerned that the president is giving his ministers a clean bill of approval, saying that they are performing very well. He says he does not believe that the ministers of President Akufo-Addo are performing to capacity, and some of them should be sacked. Former President John Mahama also lamented the slow pace of investigation into the murder of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale and urged the Ghana Journalists Association to fight until the perpetrators are arrested and prosecuted.
One of your own paid the ultimate price, Ahmed Swale, and as at now, there still doesn't seem to be any movement in apprehending the people who him in such cold blood. And I think that is something that you must not sleep on. You must continue to fight to make sure that whoever were responsible for that murder, are brought to book.
On his part, President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Albert Jumfor, outlined his vision for the GJA and sought the support of the former president. For Joy News, Kweku Asante, Accra.
Now, President Akufo-Addo says the country's economy will soon bounce back stronger from the current battering it's receiving from some quarters. According to him, the government is working on changing the structural fundamentals of the Ghanaian economy, and he believes things will work out well. He was speaking on Kwahu-based Republic 97.5 FM as part of his tour of the Eastern region.
I'm confident. Sir, we will find a solution to it. And in that solution, so the fundamentals of the Ghanaian economy. We were right in identifying these things. We were right in looking at how we can achieve food security in Ghana. We were right in insisting on industrial development and expansion. One of the most fundamental, our capacity to our access to the international capital markets. This year, that has been seriously compromised, largely as a result of the at sea in the global economy, which has meant that virtually all the budgets of countries have been thrown out of gear.
Now, moving on from the economy, research by a research-based organization, Global Info Analytics, has revealed that the governing New Patriotic Party cannot achieve their goal of winning the 2021 presidential elections. According to the research, majority of the party's own members who were surveyed concluded that the party cannot break the 8 as they are currently touting. In a research on the question of whether the MPP can break the 8, approximately 70% of voters do not believe the MPP can win the 2024 elections. So what is accounting for the latest figures, and who do Ghanaians trust as a better manager of the economy? Isaac Kojo is a data analyst. Again, he joins me on Zoom. Kofi, what's the scope of this survey? Kofi, kindly unmute so we can hear what you're telling us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
All right. So as I was saying, the sample size for this survey was around 5,661 voters from 75 constituencies. And the confidence interval for this research as well is 99% with 1.75 margin of error. Respondents were selected randomly in streets for the poll, and then voters also who are affiliated to certain parties. That question was asked as the last question, and field interviews were conducted between 1st October to 14th October 2022, Grace.
What is the poll saying about breaking the 8?
Right, so, respondents were asked a very simple question. Can the NPP break the 8? And then 70% of the responded that no, they feel that the NPP cannot break the 8. 20% believe that the NPP can break the 8, whilst 10% were indifferent. They said they do not know if the NPP can or cannot break the 8, Brace.
Is there a breakdown of respondents affiliated to the NPP and what their views are on breaking the 8?
So if you look at the party affiliation, those who were asked a very simple question, can the NPP break the 8? If you look at the MPP respondent, 44% said that they believe that the MPP can't break the 8, whilst the same 44, the same proportion, 44% also believe that the MPP cannot break the 8. 12%, on the other hand, are indifferent. If you look at NPP, respondents, affiliated respondents who were asked this same question, can the MPP break the 8? 91% of these respondents responded that the MPP cannot break the 8. 4% believe the MPP can break the 8, whilst 5% also believe they are indifferent about this question. Now, let's look at floating voters. Floating voters were also asked this same question, can the MPP break the 8? 69% believe the MPP cannot break the 8, whilst 16% believe they can break the 8. 15% are, indifferent about this question.
The city is taking some battering from the dollar. Inflation is surging. Who do Ghanaians trust, according to this poll, can manage the economy in 2024 and beyond?
So I think this is the second time that Global Info Analytics is actually conducting this research. The first one was done in July this year, and then the second one in October. So in July, when Ghanaians were asked, who do you think can better manage the economy? 17% believe that Dr. Bawumia can manage the economy proper. Now, when this same poll was conducted in October, Bawumia's 17% now dropped to 13%. Alan Chairman in October, 13% believe he can better manage the economy. And when this same research was done in October, his number has now moved up from 13% to 22%. John Dramani Mahama, on the other hand, in July this year, when the first research was done, 55% believe he can be the better manager of the economy. But when the research was done in October, he actually dropped 1 percentage point from 55% in July now to 54% in October, Grace.
Thank you. Isaac Kojo is a data analyst here at Joy News. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us. Now, the Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, Sam Jonah, says all economic proposals to get Ghana out of the economic doldrums will not wash unless there is a deliberate effort to change the structure of the Ghanaian economy. He says Ghana's appetite and demand for everything foreign is central to the economic hardship the country is going through currently. Says Sam Jonah is calling for a robust change in the agricultural policies of the country so the country will not be at the mercy of other countries when disaster strikes. He was speaking at the 60th anniversary Day of the University of Cape Coast. There's more in this report.
The UCC Chancellor says the key solution to Ghana's economy is to boost agricultural production so the country does not import virtually everything. Speaking at the Grand Deba to climax the 60th anniversary of the University of Cape Coast, he says the country's economic challenges would even be worse if we do not make production a key focus in our quest for solutions.
Indeed, Mr. President, our insatiable appetite and demand for everything and anything foreign is central to the challenges we are facing now as a country. And I personally believe that unless and until we take all of us, take concrete measures and actions and implement them, we will to have an integrated economy and which will make us less dependent on foreign goods. I'm afraid our economic challenges will be further exacerbated. Without a doubt, I believe that a good start is to start with food. I think that it is unconscionable that most of the tilapia we consume in this country comes from China. Our frozen chicken comes from the Netherlands and the United States. And of course, we rely on Burkina Faso for our onions and tomato. Now, I'm sure you all learned, the Chinese having taken over, they destroyed our land and now producing cocoa, are now exporting cassava and gari and yams. The cost of food everywhere is a major part of any country's economy and behoves on all of us to do whatever we can to improve accessibility and affordability. My charge to this university, therefore, is that we lead the national effort in ensuring that we are using cutting-edge technologies and research to assist with the efficient implementation of the government's economic and agricultural policies.
President Akufo-Addo congratulated the university on the global strides it was making. He indicated government was keen at pursuing encroachers of the lands of the university.
I'm informed that almost 1/3 of the university's legally acquired lands had been lost to encroachers. This is most unfortunate and unacceptable. Let me take this opportunity to call on Nananum and all stakeholders to ensure a complete cessation of these unfortunate activities. Let me sound a note of caution to the encroachers that the government is now prepared to take the necessary steps to reclaim such lands soon, not only at UCC.
Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, Professor Johnson Yakobo-Ampong, indicated the university was expanding its research infrastructure, impact the country and the world at large.
We are seriously expanding our research infrastructure, the reason for which we have decided to build a biomedical and clinical research center as legacy monument of the 60th anniversary, so that by the time we celebrate our Diamond Jubilee, the research center would have also attained a sector of excellence status.
The University of Cape Coast was recently ranked by the Times Higher Education as the best university in Ghana, the best in West Africa, and the fourth best in Africa. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kojo Nyako.
To NSMQ9, Opokwari SHS qualifies for semi-finals after beating Keta SHS and Adventist Senior High School. Let's cross over to Kumasi, where my colleague Maxwell Agbagba is standing by with latest from the grounds.
That's Opoku School, two-time winners Opoku School. They've qualified to for the semi-finals of the 2022 National Science and Math Quiz. And the super sub from Opoku School, Manuel Anderson, did the magic for these guys in round 4 and round 5. In round 4 and round 5, that was when things turned in favor of Opoku School. Let's speak to the gentleman. No, let's go back.
Your place amongst the great to uphold. Let's not let tradition from Halloween. Architecture.
So we have the super sub who did the magic for the guys from Opoku School, Manuel Anderson Calvin. Round 4, round 5, spectacular performance. Tell us, have you specialized in round 4 and round 5? Because at the 1-8 stage 2, we saw the same performance against Anua Senior High School and Sunyani Secondary School. Have you specialized? Have you specialized in round 4 and round 5? Tell me, what's your secret? Tell me.
The God factor.
It is the God factor. How do you feel right now?
I feel excited.
What should we expect in the semi-final contest?
Let's be quiet for now. Let's head on to the semi-final.
Okay. Listen, Manuel Anderson Calvin, great guy, great super sub for Opoku School, and he did the magic for them, and now they've qualified for the semi-final. Let me speak to some old students. I have some old students. Old students. Teachers. Okay. Tell me, old students. Tell me, which year did you complete?
Come again?
Which year did you complete? 2017. What's the feeling like for you guys now?
It's been amazing, you know. Keta gave us a very difficult match, but then at the end of the day, we came out successful. So we thank God.
What should we expect this year from you?
The best. Yeah.
Okay.
Please, there's nothing to be expected.
Opoku School, indeed, proved that they are the 2017. They are actually the 2022 regional champions of the Ashanti region. Indeed, many of them have been speaking to tell us that they're going to go ahead to win the national competition in 2022. That's this year. You can see the gentleman.
Tiguni.
Sorry.
Okay.
What's the feeling like?
He said, come again.
What's the feeling like for you?
First of all, I would like to recommend you guys for the good work done. You know, as a senior school and as Opoku School, we are able to do everything. And in Ghana, we are the only school in Ghana. That is why we are coming. We always remain.
Thank you. Now, let me talk to my colleague Emmanuel Bright Kweku, who is here with me. Getting a bit chaotic here. The excitement is just too much. But Emmanuel, let me find out from you. Are you surprised by this performance? And the super sub for Opoku School, Manuel Anderson Calvin.
So those are scenes from Kumasi there. But Araba Kumsen is now ready with this week's editorial.
Now, to say Ghana is in dire straits is an understatement. Kromaeshe has become a cliche. We're all beginning to sound like a broken record because of the seemingly never-ending impact of our economic challenges. I won't bore you with details of how we got here. You already know how managers of the economy, hitherto referred to as economic wizards, have by the stroke of their magic wand landed us in the fiery flames of economic hell. So we're all feeling the heat because largely the city is running helter-skelter and evading arrest. And why won't it? The speed at which it is running is akin to the speed of light, and the spiral does not appear to abate. Imagine that last week were buying the dollar at 12 cedis. Today, it is almost 15 cedis within a spate of 7 days. We're talking days, not weeks. In January this year, diesel and petrol sold at 6 cedis 80 pesos per litre. From last Sunday, diesel was selling at 15.99 pesos. 15 cedis, 99 pesos, that is. And petrol is selling at 13 cedis, 10 pesos. So diesel has risen by 141% and petrol by 97%. You do the math and its impact on you. Consumer inflation at the beginning of the year was 13.9. It is now 37.2. Goods and services fluctuate daily because we import almost everything. This week, the Chamber of Pharmacy also announced a no cash, no medicine policy. So what this means is that pharmacies may soon refuse to serve NHIS clients unless they bring cash. We all know how this will impact the most vulnerable and the poor. They will bear the full brunt of this decision because the NHIA also owes many pharmacies, and this is obviously affecting healthcare delivery. So it's a litany of problems brought on by the actions or inactions of managers of our economy, many of whom have chosen to go into hiding. But can you blame them? How can they explain away this appalling state of affairs? But every day, Ghanaians have to devise new ways of surviving. How much longer can we continue like this? And that is why the majority of us expected the president to light the flame of hope in us and carry us along so that together we can lift ourselves out of this economic quagmire. Instead, this is what our president said. Mr. President, here's the thing. I mean, if you succeed, the entire country prospers. Even your detractors and political opponents also enjoy success. So this is not the time for politics. This is the time to rather galvanize the nation and not take cheap shots at your opponents. I mean, forget the controversy over whether or not you were booed at the recent Global Citizens Festival. But to be booed in Kumasi, your stronghold, where your party has always enjoyed the highest support, says a lot.
MPO, President, His Excellency Nekani.
Beyond that, your response to the people of Kwabre and Manso, who were begging for road infrastructure, was disappointing to say the least.
Say, people make those kind of threats. Me, they don't frighten me.
Okay.
Somebody votes for you, somebody supports you. It's because they want you to do things for them. I understand that. There's no need for people to go to Manya, say. I don't want to answer. Of course, mayor. And about who decided to amend this year.
So is this the same Nane Kufuado who begged Ghanaians in 2016? So, Mr. President, you begged for the power. We gave you the power. And if we are ranting that you're not living up to the expectations of the majority of Ghanaians, including your own party members, this is not how we expect you to communicate. When leaders in other jurisdictions, such as the United Kingdom, are unable to deliver on their mandates, they resign. But we know that resignation is not in your plans. So, Mr. President, when we gave you the mandate to lead us, we did not give you a crown. We gave you a responsibility. Please live up to it.
Now, each year, the World Health Summit takes place in Berlin under the patronage of German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. It aims to tackle several challenges from healthcare in times of pandemic to dealing with climate change and developing digital technologies. DW's correspondent Emmanuel Chase joins us to talk about it. Now, what are the biggest challenges that are being discussed at this year's summit?
Well, first off, this summit was for the first time co-organized together with the World Health Organization. 4,000 participants in Berlin only, with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, still top of the agenda. But not just this pandemic, also the Ebola outbreak was on the agenda, with German Health Minister Karl Lauterbach saying outbreaks are mandatory, but pandemics are optional, and that people needed, to send well-educated people on the ground with the relevant skills to tackle those pandemics. So the challenge is the modernization of the health system, the digitization of health strategies. Also, the challenge will be to help people who are in conflict zones. We're talking about over 2 billion people in the planet who are living in such zones. So many topics too that have been addressed during that summit.
Well, we understand this year's motto is making the choice for health. What do participants of the summit hope to achieve?
Well, there's one very significant goal that has been achieved, and that's the pledge of $2.6 billion that have been pledged to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. So that's to end polio in the next years. This is something that was welcomed by the World Health Organization. That represents half of the sum they will need to carry the vaccination campaigns. But also the World Health Organization has warned that the virus was still spreading also to polio-free country, and not just where there have been hotspots in the past. I'm thinking about Afghanistan, Pakistan, Mozambique, to name but a few. Also, it's about securing financial flows to invest in health, in digital transformation, and more. That kind of summit is also aimed at favoring more cooperation on an international level. For example, to develop COVID apps, to detect pandemics earlier, and to coordinate health databases worldwide.
Emma Chase is with the DW. And that's how we wrap up today's bulletin. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. To enjoy your weekend.